Let's talk 观点好钱. NVIDIA has been at the forefront of this technological innovation, and today we have this great privilege of delving deeper into the pivotal role of NVIDIA, especially on how it shapes the current industrial landscape as well as paving its way for future revolutions. Let's welcome Dion Harris, the director of the data centers at NVIDIA. Welcome, Dion. Such an honor to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Thank you. And Dion, after the launch of the Blackwell chips introduced to the market, we know that the demand surpassed the supply. So now the CEO, Jensen Huang, definitely he started this new wave of an AI revolution.
Yeah.
How would you define NVIDIA's position in this AI revolution trend?
Yeah, so the way that he's articulated it, I think it's a brilliant analogy, which is basically looking at the last industrial revolution, which was really about how to harness the power of electrons and electricity to power every industry, right? When you think about everything that electricity has touched, think about that in terms of AI. And so we believe that Gen AI will have a similar ubiquitous impact in terms of affecting every industry, from transportation, from computers, of course, from medicine to climate science. And so we see this opportunity to really harness the power of Gen AI. And I think we're just getting started. And so it's really exciting to see all the opportunities opening up, to see a lot of the companies looking for new and different ways and how they can leverage the technology. And I think that's only going to create lots of opportunity, both economically as well as socially.
Definitely. As you said, you've just started, but you've already made a huge impact. So how would you view it, your next step, your next goal?
So right now, it's really about how do we help our customers, how do we help our partners really sort of get ready for that next wave. And so you mentioned we just launched Blackwell, and one of the key things that we're always trying to do is figure out how can we help improve the overall solution, how can we drive more efficiency, understanding that a lot of what is a gating factor for people adopting AI is getting access and getting the right sort of economics in place to really access the system. So we're driving down the cost, driving down energy consumption. So really making sure that these solutions are attainable and usable for a lot of our customers and partners. And as we do that, like I said, it'll open up a wide range of use cases. So it's really about how do you drive the marginal cost and the marginal sort of resources required to deploy and use these technologies down to zero. And so with our Blackwell release, we've highlighted how this new platform is 30 times faster and 25 times more energy efficient compared to our current gen. And so by increasing the overall effectiveness, the efficiency, the performance, it actually transforms the economics, so it allows people to use it in a much more sort of seamless fashion.
Definitely. As you just mentioned, it's a collaboration with your customers, your partners as well. Since you are the biggest influence of AI currently, we can tell that there is this huge revolution that the general public also has to be prepared of. So what would be your advice for the general public about this revolution? Like how people can better prepare to be going with the flow together?
Oftentimes when I talk about AI, it's oftentimes coming from a place or perspective of passion and excitement. And so when I see people trying to understand how and where they can embrace AI, there's a couple of things that I usually like to suggest. One is understand where your passion lies, where are the areas that you're most interested in life, and it'll be interesting to see how and where Gen AI or new technologies can be applied to make those areas better. For example, I have a huge interest in sports. And recently I was talking to one of my good friends, and he was describing how they're leveraging Gen AI to do real-time on-the-court tracking and understanding how players are fatiguing and performing in the game. And so it's an area that you wouldn't really think about where technology is being applied, but I think there's all types of opportunities where you're starting to see AI and Gen AI being brought to those use cases, which again are just part of our everyday lives and areas where we just have interest in daily passions.
Definitely. So this concept of AI, it should be so far away from us, but now it's actually a part of our daily life that maybe people hasn't been aware of, but we're really a part of it. And so we're also a part of it, something that's called extreme weather. That is definitely something very severe that we have to be aware of. And we know that you've been cooperating with Taiwan to develop this typhoon evacuation AI mode, which means that you can estimate typhoon and also to give a heads up, to facilitate early evacuation. Can you further elaborate this model?
Sure. So it's a part of our broad initiative that we have called Earth 2. And so what Earth 2 is about, it's about harnessing the power of the technologies that NVIDIA has been really championing over the last couple of years. And so that's really harnessing the power of simulation, and that's just core, numerical simulation, AI, and digital twins. And so in the use case that you were describing, we've been able to leverage AI to create AI surrogate models that can very quickly and accurately predict the weather and extreme weather conditions at a very localized level. And so that's one of the key things when you're trying to understand the impacts of weather. It's not just being able to predict it at a gross level, but you want to be able to have a very fine-tuned regional view of the impacts. And so we're able to leverage a model called CoreDiff, which takes data simulation output and then it super resolves it and allows you to have a much more granular view of the impacts of those specific extreme weather events. And so we've been working very closely with CWA, along with the NCDR, to really build use cases and leverage their data to build out the models by which they can then start to look and see how they can embrace that within their overall operational models as well. So we're just getting started, but we had some really exciting results and we shared those. We're working very closely with them to take that from the demo to actually operationalizing it for their real-time use.
Yeah, it's definitely really exciting news. This is so helpful for Taiwan, since there's so many typhoons happening in Taiwan. But what about some other natural disasters, say if earthquake, if one day can be anticipated as well?
Absolutely. So when you look at how we're leveraging Earth 2, it's really about how do you take, various types of data, pull it into a complex model, use AI, use digital twins to represent that. And so in some cases, we've actually been able to leverage seismic data. Now, it's not as useful in terms of understanding or predicting earthquakes per se, because obviously that requires very keen awareness of what's happening at a surface level. But what it is useful for is modeling the impacts, right? And so when you think about what you're typically trying to do in terms of being prepared for earthquakes, a lot of it has to do with structural analysis, which also requires very sophisticated simulation. So there are use cases where we're able to leverage AI and leverage some of those techniques to model and build AI surrogates that can help predict the impacts of those. Now, in terms of other types of weather phenomena, we also have been able to use AI to predict things like extreme weather in terms of heat waves. So for example, when we looked at the 2018 heat wave that sort of took place in North Africa, we were able to leverage this AI-based approach to create an ensemble that was, thousands of members. And so what that basically means is that you can now get a much broader understanding of what the potential impacts may be. And by leveraging AI, we were able to identify a particular heat wave that ended up striking and affecting this particular area weeks in advance. And so by having early detection for things like heat waves, early detections for lots of storms, you can evacuate, you can prepare in a much more urgent fashion. And so that helps saves lives, it helps reduce impact to overall property damage, et cetera. So a lot of those things we're working very closely with a lot of government organizations, a lot of disaster recovery organizations to really figure out how we can help them leverage those tools to make their jobs better.
So wonderful. It's life-saving. Like you just said, the evacuation AI model has been worked closely with Taiwan. So this model can it also be applied to other countries' natural disaster as well?
Trained on localized radar data. And so it takes data and based on the regional sort of locality of that data, it can create a very specific model. So we're in the process of working with other regions to do a similar approach where we basically take a lot of their regional weather and forecasting as well as their radar data, and then we can basically load that in our CoreDiff model and then build a regional model there. So it'll be a step-by-step process. But again, like I mentioned earlier, we're just getting started, just the sort of tip of the iceberg in terms of really starting to leverage these technologies. But we've really been excited in working with Taiwan to kind of prove a lot of these concepts out. And so I think it'll be, exciting to see other regions roll them out and develop them as well.
Amazing. That's very exciting. I'll definitely be updating on that. And also, we know that NVIDIA specializes in GPU chips that keeps on innovating the AI. But also, we know that AMD and Intel they also produce the same chips. So, what is your advantage of this GPU chips?
So first of all, I'll start by saying I think competition is great for everyone. I mean, it's great for customers. It's great for us in that it forces us to continue to innovate. But I also think that when describing NVIDIA, we view ourselves as much more than a chip company. So in other words, when you think about sort of how we approach building AI factories, first it starts with the chips and building out processors that are cutting edge and deliver the performance and technology required to really drive a lot of these use cases. But, of course, we're talking about the CPUs, GPUs, and DPUs. But we've also innovated in terms of networking, both in terms of our ability to connect, thousands of systems together, as well as the ability to have the GPUs and the chips themselves talk to each other within the compute fabric. So by innovating at both the processing layer, the networking layer, and then last but not least, the software, right? So we've created a number of domain-specific acceleration libraries, because accelerated computing, which is really sort of the path forward in terms of how data centers are being built, is really a domain by domain discipline. In other words, you have to first understand how you can take a climate application and accelerate it. We've done that over the last 15 years. So we think our core value, if you will, is being able to innovate at every layer of the AI factory. And then more recently, we announced our NIMs, which are basically our NVIDIA inferencing microservices. And that's really taking all of our knowledge in terms of what we've done with AI models, the model development and inferencing, and packaging it along with the hardware dependencies and making that available to customers as microservices. So this is just an opportunity for customers to not just buy GPUs, but to really access that full stack and allow them to really take advantage of all of our sort of institutional knowledge and all the work that we built around AI and the AI factories themselves. And that's sort of a unique value add that we think customers are really enjoying. And that's a part of why we're really sort of helping lead this charge around AI.
Yeah, it's the morale behind it.
Yeah, it's the morale, and like I said, it's really just the full stack integration. And I think on the flip side, even though we have incredible integration sort of from, like I said, from chip up through the application layer, we're also disaggregated in that we work with every OEM, we're in every cloud, we're supported by every system vendor. So it's really having this vertically integrated solution that's also horizontally disaggregated and consumable in any way that customers really want to engage with us. So that's really sort of the core to our value.
The core value of NVIDIA. And also, the CEO, he also has another highlight of innovation, and that is the humanoid robots that's about to be launched. We see the human robots, including the Disney dog robots as well. Yeah. So what is the ambition of NVIDIA of these robots in the future?
So, if you think about how we have seen AI evolve, like it went from just object detection to generative AI and generating intelligence and generating actual assets and intelligence. And I think the next wave will be physical AI. In other words, taking all of these techniques that we've built in terms of having the ability to understand, to reason, to communicate with the world, and embodying that into a robot, whether it's something that can move people around like self-driving cars, whether it's on a manufacturer assembly line, like robotics arms. And so we see tons of opportunity to go and power a whole new wave of AI, which is physical AI. And so we had a couple of examples that we highlighted with Wistron and Foxconn in terms of building out manufacturing facilities, leveraging robotics. And so this type of AI we think is going to be transformational for industry in particular. And then I think as you start to see that evolve, we'll start to see other use cases and applications of robotics that, I think we're only scratching the surface again, like I mentioned before, but it's an incredible opportunity both for NVIDIA as well as the Taiwan ecosystem in terms of building out and manufacturing these new devices. So we think it's a really exciting opportunity, and I think it's the next wave of AI.
The next wave of AI, like you just mentioned, it's physical robots. Yeah. And there's so many different types. So which ones are you focusing first? Like which one's the priority?
Yes. So right now, a lot of the use cases I described in terms of the manufacturing use cases are really top of mind, because that's sort of a very tangible problem that a lot of manufacturers have. They're really forced with trying to figure out how do they increase the overall productivity of their manufacturing plants, as well as shortages in labor, right? And so to the extent that we can help enable it through automation as well as enable it through this new wave of AI technologies, whether it's using it for object detection and actual to improve error rates. In fact, I was at the show floor earlier today, and we got a chance to see some of the robotics demonstrations where they were leveraging AI to go through and literally monitor their assembly lines to make sure that their products were being produced of high quality and at a high efficient rate. So when you start to understand all the different areas where AI is being applied in manufacturing, it's truly mind-boggling. There's tons of opportunities for efficiency, tons of opportunities for additional use cases that we think are very, very exciting.
Very exciting. And how are you taking the compute tax this year so far? Like any new inspirations that you'll take back to the States this year?
I've been really impressed walking the show floor, seeing all the different technologies, from consumer technologies to data center technologies to edge technologies. It's really inspiring just to see all of it in one place. And so I think what I take back with me is just, again, another more excitement around what the future holds around not just AI, but just the broader embodiment of this broader ecosystem really working together to service that need. So it's a great partnership. And I think NVIDIA, when we come to Taiwan, it's always exciting to really see that spirit of partnership. And so I think that's what I take back with me. And I think it'll be a very, very exciting path forward.
It's so wonderful to talk to you today, Dion, and I hope that we get to talk again next year when you're back.